Taz Express is a year 2000 PAL exclusive title developed by Z2, who are the same guys behind Wettrix, and published by Infogrames. You take on the role as Taz as you work your way through various stages with the common aim of delivering a package, hence the game's title. The story is that the she-devil has gotten Taz a job as a next day courier delivery driver, and so you must deliver the crate packages to various endpoints which give the game its distinct worlds. And along the way you'll have puzzles to solve, platforming sections to contend with, and a whole host of enemies including familiar faces from the Warner world. It was a last minute decision to pull the worldwide release of the game, so much so in fact that just a month before its scheduled North American release, IGN were doing previews and interviewing the team behind it to find out more about what to expect. They said that they were pretty much left to their own devices to create the entire game, and that Warner didn't really offer too much input aside from wanting to see builds of the game from time to time. Funnily enough though, the game's entire engine is a modified version of Wettrix's. Quite how much work they had to do to get a puzzle game into a platform game, but the end result is an acceptable enough effort, and the studio bragged that they had a game running at a constant 30 frames per second. In the same interview, Stu Pickford noted how unique the studio's games had been in the past, and said that many of the ideas they had come up with in the past were now being used by companies like Rare and Nintendo for their games. This game was released in Europe, and after poor sales, despite some average reviews, the worldwide launch was put on hold, and as we know now it was never released stateside or in Japan. I found this strange as there's got to be more fans of the character stateside than here in Europe. But how is the game? Well, to be honest, it's a fairly run-of-the-mill experience, and despite having some great ideas, it never quite feels fully fleshed out enough. Graphically, the game sits somewhere in the upper third-party developer releases, but well below those by Rare and Nintendo. It remains true to the source material, and even though many of the stages have been built for the game, they are all scenes that you could imagine being in an actual Taz cartoon. Whilst the characters and enemies have quite a decent amount of animation, the level design is quite poor, and there will be many times where the camera gets stuck and you can't quite position it in the right place. Everything has a slightly sharp look to it, and there are quite a few areas where backgrounds are a single colour, which give parts of the visuals a slightly cheap look and feel. The level design, as mentioned, isn't all that great, and in a puzzle platform game this leads to many trial and error moments, and other times where you just don't understand what the studio were expecting you to try. You'll try to solve a lot of the puzzles and simply do so by chance, which feels a bit cheap when the sense of satisfaction from actually solving a puzzle is taken away from you. Taz's ability to spin and destroy environments is cool, but again, this is only in certain areas, and as you need to get momentum to actually enter the spin, it can lead to moments where you're awkwardly trying to run in a straight line to build up the momentum meter. Sure, you can eat food to help your spinning, but it isn't always plentiful enough in the levels. Speaking of spinning, the controls in the game do take far too long to get to grips with. As the gameplay is built around the momentum of Taz, he starts off by moving very slowly, and this gradually increases as you go in a straight line. The problem is that the control with the analog stick makes moving in a completely straight line very difficult, and sometimes even the slightest twitch of the analog stick will reset your meter. Jumping, which is a cornerstone of most platform games, is challenging. It's hard to explain unless you've played the game, but Taz as a character feels very unbalanced when jumping, and when combined with the same momentum mechanic I spoke about a moment ago, it means every jump in the game feels completely different, and you'll never get that fluidity that most platform games offer. The game's audio too is a mixed bag. The effects are all very nice. Taz growls, groans and grunts just like in the cartoon, and it sounds like they used some great samples from Warner to give him a true to life sound set. The music, on the other hand, is a blend of what I would describe as generic late 90s platform game music. It sounds like it would have been composed to fit any game rather than taking advantage of the cartoon source material. Some stages do without music altogether, and instead just have a set of sound effects which too cheapens the overall package. In summary, I really don't think that North American and Japanese gamers missed out on a great title here. It's perhaps one of the better PAL exclusive N64 games, but it's a genre which was saturated with quality titles from very companies that Z2 said they were being ripped off by. It's a game that I'd still say was worth playing because if you can get to grips with the mechanics and controls, there's a decent amount of levels here, but I'd never say that this is a must-own title. It's funny because so many people I speak to forgot or didn't even realise that this was a game on Nintendo 64. And so for today's topic of conversation, I'd love to know what you thought about it. Do you think that this should have been released worldwide, or do you think that the console as a whole probably didn't even need this game to be released anywhere? As always, thanks for watching, and until next time.